Welcome to the fourth episode of VSTML 2025 Recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Harmstone, and joining me as always is the Canadian who does have to occasionally remind us that he's a podcaster too, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
And the guy who has asked most of the men of Melbourne if they want to play Snakes and Ladders with him for syrup, David Bindley.
Good morning.
Good morning. Are we actually going to try and keep this recording under an hour and a half this week? Because it's becoming a worrying trend.
I think we can do under an hour.
It depends on what Fuzzy's guessed this week.
Yeah. On the subject of Fuzzy straight away, annoyingly she did get bingo last week despite handicapping herself by taking 2 corners off the board.
For no reason.
Yeah. Did we establish whether we're allowed to pick the corners she can't get, by the way? Because I think we probably need to clarify that before she submits the board this week.
Yeah.
I think she probably has to submit 4 guesses and then we pick which 2 she can't have.
Well, we didn't, but I was working it out. It's the same number of lines she loses, either whether it's diagonal or next to each other. So
yeah, but if we know which corners we're taking off her, we can block some lines.
Yeah, but it's the same number of lines either way.
Yeah, I just want to actively annoy her, preferably. Have you had good weeks?
Not too bad.
I taught and taught and taught and taught and taught and taught.
Did you learn anything?
No, I did not.
I did meet last week, Saunders. Did you do the Macau Tower jump that you promised us you would?
I ran out of time. It was like the Matt Damon to Jimmy Kimmel. So it had to be bumped from the list.
I'm disappointed in you. You promised us.
I did not. I don't think I said those exact words.
I mean, arguably, you also promised us that you wouldn't make shit predictions, and for the second week on the trot, your first suspect the previous week went home. But we'll get to that later in the episode.
I feel like Taco from the league at this point.
Speaking of shit predictions, good morning, Michelle.
Michelle's been very quiet about this season so far, and I don't know why.
Well, Masonry Australia is back for a 9th season, so...
Jesus fucking Christ.
How is there any justice in the world when that version of Amazing Race Australia gets 6 seasons?
And 3 of them are celebrity seasons, and all 6 are Bo Ryan seasons.
Yeah.
Maybe in 10 years, Bo Ryan's son will be a contestant on Amazing Race Australia, and I don't even know if he has kids.
No, he'll be hosting an after show at that point.
After the race? That's going to be revived? Is James Duthie going to host?
He is the Australian James Duthie.
Jesus.
I mean, the big TV thing that we're obviously skating around this week is the end of Traitors last week. Such an underwhelming ending.
So I learned most people, including Reddit, are not big Leanne fans.
No, they're not.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I said this to you guys before the finale aired. I ranked what I preferred the endings to be, and that was my least preferable option. Because they were just... I mean, I'm sure Jake's nice, but he was incredibly boring television. And I'm sure Leanne's nice, but she was a bit aggressive to the internet's boyfriend Alexander at times.
Yeah, I believe self-righteous is a frequent adjective associated with Leanne.
Yeah. There is one person on Discord who is currently watching Traitors Australia 2 and says that Sam is their favourite person at the moment.
Oh. Ooh.
And there's one particularly argumentative person on that same Discord who said, yeah, Sam's probably my favourite person ever to be on Traitors. I loved Sam. And I'm just thinking, yeah, that tracks. You can probably guess who it is.
Ah.
Are we done on Traitors? You got any more on Traitors?
I just finished season 1 of New Zealand, which I talked about right before we started recording.
A very interesting season.
Very entertaining. I missed New Zealand television.
I mean, to be fair, so did they.
New Zealand television, from what I've seen of it, is pretty good, actually. There are certainly worse countries for producing television at the moment, not mentioning any names, America.
Canada.
Now, Canada gets an exclusion because of Traitors Canada 2, which was amazing. And also Traitors Quebec, which was amazing.
Okay.
And then we'll have Amazing Race Canada 11, which will feature 5 rounds around Vancouver and 4 rounds around Ontario, and that will be the whole season.
Have you applied again, Saunders?
Yes, I have.
Have you been rejected again, Saunders?
Yes, I have.
I was thinking you were rather quiet on this. And the big news in my life in the last week, at least, and I know you guys know a little bit of this, is the fact that this is the week that I teased a few weeks ago that the dogson has come to stay. So he is currently staying with my parents, and I saw him earlier, and he's the absolute best. Van was absolutely terrified of the big dog when we introduced him on Saturday, to the point that he was cowering behind a chair. They sort of coexisted yesterday when they saw each other again. On Saturday, when they first saw each other, Ludo kind of taught him how to do down, which was very impressive because he's been very reluctant to do it before. But Ludo did it, and then Van started doing it, and I went to see Van as well today, and he is now doing it without being coerced into doing it using treats, which is awesome. However, yesterday Van kind of rubbed off on Ludo, and Ludo was being a little bit rambunctious as well, which didn't help. He did vault over a coffee table, and bearing in mind this dog is now 8 stone of pure muscle and the size of a small horse, that was very entertaining. Yeah,
he's a very good boy trying his hardest, Michael. Be quiet, you monster.
He is a very, very good boy, and in fact, as soon as I walked through the door earlier to see my parents, Ludo barks because he was like, "Oh, intruder going through the front door." And then it turned the corner into the hallway, saw me, and just absolutely leapt at me. Very good boy. But yeah, he's here till Wednesday, and Wednesday is also my granddad's 93rd birthday.
Oh, awesome! Good for him. I just remembered something that might be of mild interest.
Oh, good.
So there's a. Have we just discussed the whole restaurant thing I've been doing the past couple of years? Has that ever come up on these podcasts?
I think so.
So, anyways, there's a restaurant that I saw was in the process of opening downtown a couple of months ago, and then I saw it had been added onto Google Maps, and it had no reviews, so I assumed it still wasn't open yet. So I was curious and looked it up online, and the owners have started a GoFundMe page to raise money to quote unquote help them open.
Oh, wow.
And they have a goal of $70,000.
Jesus.
And after 2 weeks, they have raised a whopping $1,000.
That is $1,000 more than I anticipated them raising.
I have never heard of a restaurant doing that, where they do a GoFundMe just to help them open. Like, there's no, oh, if you give us so much, you'll get this reward or this benefit. It's just, please give us money so we can start our restaurant.
So what you're saying is they need a very nice person to donate the other $69,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's a Mexican restaurant that's opening about 3 buildings away from a Mexican restaurant that everybody in town knows is going out of business due to a lack of customers.
I'm surprised that they went for GoFundMe rather than going for OnlyPans.
Only pots and pans.
I was just waiting for a break in the conversation to do that pun, I'll be honest.
Is it going out of business because Mexican food is considered too exotic for Vernon?
Probably.
I mean, anything that isn't potato-based is too exotic for Vernon, isn't it?
Yeah. It's why there are potatoes, samosas sold at every store. As soon as you deviate from potatoes, it's not all gravy anymore.
Damn it, yams.
So anyway, this episode.
Yeah, otherwise Fuzzy's going to win again. You can't let that happen.
She's been well off on the runtime. That's all that really matters. She might guess the banner this week. She's definitely not going to guess the runtime. I think she was 15 minutes off last week.
Jesus.
Which is quite impressive even by Fuzzy standards. So previously, the final 9 sang for their mole money as they tried to communicate words through karaoke, but after some questionable behaviour, both Sophie and Sam had their songs disqualified. After a long journey to Siem Reap, 3 of them disappeared, and thanks to convincing the group he slept at an airport, Stein walked away with 2 yokers, but Ray was the one who had an advantage, being able to see videos of everyone left in episode 7 if he was still there. At an atypical test, everyone ran to be able to trade in for yokers, but it was Gabrielle who ran out of time, as he was the second one to leave the game. And it is time for another briefing of the mole, which is Rick saying,
Be careful with inside information. Make sure you don't run your mouth. You only know what Eve told the group, and nothing more.
I have to watch what I say, and that's a thing.
Do you think these briefings are like relating to the things that the mole's actually done that we can use to like find them, or is it just like generic, this is a good strategy sort of thing?
I think they must be relevant to what the mole's doing. I think they're supposed to lead us towards the mole.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that this is like just sort of, before we get to the credits, this is the third week in a row that the episode title started with the words "the right."
Yes.
And it feels like they're sort of setting up a clue where like the mole is always on the right of a group photo or a challenge intro or something. But then I went back and looked at them and I couldn't work out, like, it's not consistent enough that I don't know what they're pointing at with that.
Yeah, because last week was the right way of seeing, and this week is the right way of speaking.
Yeah, and I think episode 2 was the right way of something as well. The right motive.
Yeah, it was the right motive, because that was a direct quote from the briefing of the mole as well.
So it feels like they're setting something up with that, but I don't know what yet.
Yeah, I mean, we know the episode titles are occasionally relevant to this show. I think they must be setting something up there, and they're certainly setting something up with the briefings. I just don't necessarily know what it is yet.
Or it's just like Survivor Heroes versus Villains, where they just suddenly come up with a whole bunch of episode titles related to ships.
It's so nice to not know what's happening on this show. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know your suspicions yet this week, Bindles, but this is the most disparate our suspicions have been maybe ever for a mole season already, and we're only 3 weeks of definitely knowing the suspicions in. I mean, arguably, Saunders did have that weird week where he suspected Michael, John, Olche, and Linda, but we'll ignore that.
Wait. Somehow those suspicions were closer to being right than the past couple of weeks that I have submitted.
I mean, if you want to say that, I'm not going to dispute it. I wouldn't have gone for that cheap joke. I would have just, let it hang out there and let people make their own minds up about your completely ridiculous suspicions.
I mean, to be fair, you could have suspected Gabriel.
True.
If this was the Mole Australia, Michael John could have been a stowaway suspect. Just a final five. Hey, we're going to bring in a new player, guys.
He may or may not be the mole. So it's day 7 in Siem Reap, and they are going shopping in a market. And Sam finds an amazing shirt, which unfortunately I don't think he ended up buying.
Sorry, the note I wrote on that was Sam picks up the ugliest shirt. It looks like something Michael would wear when he loses on a game show.
My next thing I was going to say was, unironically, I would wear that. Yeah, no regrets. I would absolutely have worn that shirt. It was awesome.
If Sam wore that to the execution, Rick just says, "Stop! Wait! Who's the treasurer? Who's the penny macer? Bridget, can you cough up 100 euros, please?"
See also the Aloha shirt that Drew Goins wore on Jeopardy Champions Wildcard last week. I absolutely would have worn that as well. It was awesome.
Is it better or worse than Clay's shirt from Vietnam, China?
I can't even remember that.
Remember that? That was that bizarre. He had that really bizarre outfit when it's either when he was executed or the week before he was executed, and half of our podcast was just talking about how bizarre his outfit was.
I can't remember that, but I'm gonna say better because that shirt was actually pretty cool.
I would have to look it up in my notes, but I remember it was just some bizarre logo or slogan on it that was just. Was the shirt that had like a sexual slogan on it? And we're all thinking,
yeah, something's it's coming back to me now.
Yeah,
something about boobs.
No, you're thinking of Logan's t-shirt collection.
Okay.
No, that was a souvenir. That was a shirt you get with your meal at Hooters. That's what that shirt was.
Is that right? But yeah, Sam's shirt choice, absolutely perfect. No notes. Micah's was, a bit ugly for my taste. I'm not gonna lie. Ray and Sam propose a bit of a bond with Sophie, and Ray shared his information in broad strokes with Sam the previous evening. They say that Bridget and Stein are a very strong duo, and Micah attaches herself to them. They want a counterforce as a result, and Sophie agrees to work with Ray and Sam, but says that actions speak louder than words.
She says that in English.
She does. There's a lot of English in this season, including from Rick.
Yeah.
I think Rick saying the word snakes might be the first English we've actually heard him say on any of his seasons.
It's interesting that Sam basically points out he's worked with Gabriel and with Toon, and then he's working with Ray this week, and then Ray goes home as well. Like, at what point do you realize that you're really bad at picking people to work with?
Or maybe he's just doing us all a public service and getting rid of the boring people.
Yeah.
Like, if he teams up with Nora next week, then, like, Sam is our hero at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's our Samuel Haggins.
Yeah. So they head to the Angkor Green Gardens for the first challenge, and Rick says it's a question that's occupied scientists for centuries. How do you spot a liar? A conclusive answer has never been found, which is why a lot of people are bad at unmasking liars, which is good for a mole. 3 of them will be subjected to a lie detector test, and they can choose as a group who that is.
I thought the best way to detect a liar is whoever is just shaking uncontrollably and sweating profusely. The liar will perspire, as Dwight K. Schrute would say.
I'll preface this entire challenge now by saying the way to spot a liar is not to hook them to a lie detector test. As I said last week, they can be beat, they can be trained. Like, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
it can work.
And the best part is for this one, they weren't even like hooked up to a lie detector. It was one of those ones that sort of measures the stress in your voice, because Rick goes on about like the voice analysis sort of thing. And Big Brother Australia did this years and years ago, and basically got criticized for how unreliable this is. And then they got so badly criticized for it that they went and found another one, and basically did exactly the same thing 2 weeks later, and got criticized for that as well.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, if the mole was in that group of 3, they will have been trained to not give anything away.
Yeah.
Because you can beat a lie detector test very easily. It's quite well known that lie detector tests are very, very unreliable.
I was just thinking, if this was the Canary Island season, during the briefing, Childecost would say, Philippe, do not be the one interrogated. Do not be the one interrogated, Philippe. Please don't be in that group. Go for the haunted house.
Yeah, what we're going to do, Philippe, is say that the mole picked the roles for this challenge just so you can stay the fuck away from that lie detector. So, hilariously, Micah is immediately volunteered by pretty much everyone else in the group, along with Rose and Sam. And Ray is quickly decided as an interviewer, and after much discussion, Sophie joins him with the phrase, "Don't forget I'm a journalist too." Not even my favourite one of these awkward quotes in this challenge, because there's a better one coming. The other 3 will be earning the money and deciding how many questions the interrogators can ask by going through a haunted house. And Bridget is absolutely terrified at the prospect, and Rick says, "Mole, go for it," at the end.
It's interesting that Ray thought being the interrogator was like the perfect place for him to be, which, like, even though, it's sort of his skill set, if you've been like separated from the group as much as he has been in basically every challenge so far this season that could help them find the mole, you kind of probably need to be in like a group where you can keep an eye on the most people.
Yeah.
Like, he's, he got paired with Gabriel in the party challenge in the market, so they were basically useless now that Gabriel's gone. He skipped the restaurant challenge. He was separate in the hotel. He really needed to be somewhere where he could see more people than he was.
And who'd have thought he goes home at the end of the episode?
Yeah.
Never would have predicted that happening.
Eh.
I mean, other people might not have.
Yeah.
Vidum's a tough show.
I do love that we take the piss so much at the start of every single season going, Sodders can't predict for shit, and then you always end up getting it right at the end.
After picking the person who was on Renaissance for 6 weeks.
This is proving to be tougher than season 1 of Deal or No Deal Island to figure out what's going to happen.
I will also point out at this point that this is the suspect list question for this week. In what position was the mole in this first challenge? Were they interrogating, being interrogated, or in the haunted house?
I think they were in the haunted house.
Ooh, spoopy.
I think they were being interrogated.
As do I.
Oh no! Wait! No, I think they were in a Quebec mansion. Apparently.
So in the haunted house, they have to find 5 buttons and hit them when they light up to earn €250 for the challenge, and 1 question for the interrogators to ask. However, if they make any sounds whatsoever, the blind bad guys are listening out for them, and they will shoot their laser guns at them, which can cost €500.
If production really wanted them to lose this much money from just screaming in horror or from jump scares, the best way to do it is just have T go streak across the haunted house, and all three of them would just be screaming the whole time and laser, 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 and the pot would have been down to €0.
Or alternatively, just have Tico come out of the bridge that they walk over.
Yeah. It's just nice that we finally know what happened to Michael Jackson's corpse.
The reason that I don't think the mole was in the cave in this challenge is that it is a really easy position for the mole to sabotage here.
Yeah.
We see all three of them get 4 buttons, 3 buttons each, whatever it ends up being. I think it was 11 in total, so 2 of them got 4, 1 of them got 3, I think. Like, we see them push the buttons, which the mole wouldn't do. We see Nora especially not get scared whatsoever. She didn't make a sound and lose them €500. It's a really easy one for the mole to just scream 2 or 3 times and cost them $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is why Bridget has climbed my suspect list this week.
Well, they did get shot, 5 times between them?
Yeah, I think it was Bridget twice, Stein 3.
Yeah, because they got, I think, 11 buttons in total out of 15, and then ended up with €250. So it must have been 5 times. Yeah.
Yeah, because the other bit at the end is the fact that they were very honest about how many times they got shot. Bridget admitted she got shot twice. Stein said 2 or 3 times, and Nora said I didn't get shot.
Yeah, almost as many times as 50 Cent.
There wasn't a lot of sabotage, at least from what we can infer in that haunted house challenge. So the interrogators get a list of questions that they can ask, but one of them costs money, which is, are you the mole? Which costs €500, and they decide not to spend any money.
Ray decided not to spend any money.
Well, Sophie could have asked it.
I mean, I know we said last week that he's Ellie loosed without any of the charm, but he's also Olche without any of the charm.
Yeah. I did have a note here that is just, Nora is so calm in this haunted house, it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
She's so wonderfully unfazed.
Yeah.
By everything.
I really wish we got more of Nora, because she seems like she's an absolute delight. It's just, she's not great TV.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes this week that we got no airtime from her really at all. Along with, was it Micah? She also got very, very little airtime. Meanwhile, Sophie got a huge amount of airtime this episode.
It was so noticeable that pretty much every confessional was either Sophie, Sam, or Ray.
Yeah.
Like, nobody got anything else. Because I was actually worried that Sam was going to go in this episode because of how many confessionals he got this time. He got loads. I thought we were in for a very bad result here of either Sophie or Sam going. So Sam is the first to be interrogated, like he's on SAS Who Dares Wins. He's only there to reassure Sophie and Ray that he's with them, but in true Pete Ian style, he decides to be difficult and lies about who he has a bond with. Because that is the way to really ingratiate yourself with the 2 people who actually trust you kind of at the moment.
We get one of the many, many, many confessionals from Sophie this episode was basically explaining that Sam not wanting to appear like he's the mole could either be like he's a genuine contestant not wanting to be the mole, or he's the mole not wanting to be the mole. And I'm like, well, if you can't get anything from it, why ask the question, you absolute idiots?
Yeah. I know we said this last week, but you can tell that he is his father's son.
Yeah.
Just in how awkward he is in this sort of a situation, and deliberately, hilariously, arrogantly awkward, I would say. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he's only surpassed by Rose doing that, but even better at the end of this. Because Rose's answers made me howl. She was just such an absolute arsehole to them.
Do you have kids? And then she just completely forgot whether she had kids.
Who is she, Michelle?
Going into this challenge, I'm like, I really hope at least one of these 3 people just filibusters, basically, and just really starts irritating Ray and Sophie. and 2 of them end up doing it.
Yeah.
It's like Jim Halpert's being interrogated by Dwight Schrute.
I will say they're kind of lucky that this ended up, like, they ended up getting the 2 biggest trolls being questioned. Because otherwise, there's not a lot in this episode, really.
No, there really isn't. My favourite bit of this challenge is such a brief moment as well, and it was almost the banner. But it's when Sam is leaving the Angkor house. He just turns back, waves at them, and goes, "Juice!"
I know, and he does that later in the episode as well.
In the most camp German way he can possibly do it. And yeah, he does it again later in the episode. He's just trying to make juice a thing. And it made me laugh both times. Because he's actively mocking them, going, "Juice!" And it just really makes me laugh. The only reason it wasn't the banner is because they actually ended up subtitling it in Dutch as Dewey. And that's
Oh.
it. That's the only reason it wasn't the banner. Instead, the banner, to go slightly back, is the wonderful shot of Ray and Sophie on the left-hand side and Sam just grinning at them on the right-hand side. Because it was beautiful cinematography anyway, but it just is so wonderful for this challenge of them getting really pissed off at him. Micah's the second person to get interrogated. She says she thinks it's important how you sit, and she claims she put Sam on her last test as her mole, and she says she was relieved when Rick said whether she was the mole or not. And we then see that Stein decides to skip the last button, and Bridget completely misses it because she old.
She old.
Yeah. I will say, like, when they were questioning Micah, asking her who she said was the mole on the last test is also a really, really stupid question to be asking in this situation, given that, number one, the mole must have known this challenge was coming by this point, so they could have planned for it. And, just basically just answer somebody else just to throw them off, so it wouldn't show up as a lie. And number two, everyone was doing the test side by side, so the mole was never going to pick themselves anyway.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if they'd done this challenge last week and then did that twist after this, might have been better. But, this is the one situation where you don't ask that question.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the lie detector portion of this was filmed after the haunted house portion.
Well, they had to, because they had to know how many questions they could ask.
So I wonder whether there was an element of, we've got 11 of the 15 questions that we can actually ask. We're running out of questions to ask Micah. Let's just shut this one out because we've got to ask someone 4 questions.
Yeah.
Because I think Rose gets 4 questions as well. I think Sam gets 3, and Rose and Micah both get 4. So I wonder whether that question was just a kind of, we've got to ask one of these 5 questions and we're not going to cost the group money, so let's just ask this one to Micah.
She answered one of the questions really well, where they asked her reaction when Rick told her she was the mole, and she just said relief, which is a brilliant strategy because it's a one-word answer, so there's less chance for the lie detector to show something. But it's also vague enough that it can still be misinterpreted, which, genuinely brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, she has been my top suspect for the last 3 weeks. Is she my top suspect this week? We'll find out in a bit. But that was a very good answer as a mole if she is mole.
Yeah.
Did anybody suspect Ruse less because of this challenge?
No.
No.
I think if she is the mole, she came in wonderfully prepared, in a brilliantly trolley mood, to just fuck with them.
Just turn every question on them. Do you have children? Do you have children, right?
Because on paper, this is a brilliant challenge for a mole to be in. And I know you'd, in theory, go, oh no, the mole doesn't want to be strapped to a lie detector. But you have the fact that the lie detector is a bullshit thing anyway that you can beat. But also, this is a moment for the mole to actively fuck with people. And that is the main desire of a mole in any challenge, is to have the opportunity to just mess with the team, mess with their heads. This is a perfect situation for a mole to be in.
Yeah. It was nice of Rose to use the interrogation as an excuse to try her new stand-up set about how hard it is to do interviews, though.
Yeah, because on paper, the worst place for a mole to be is asking the questions here, because the only thing you can do to cost them money is to ask the question, are you the mole? And presumably they could only ask it once anyway, because I don't think they reused any of the questions. The best place, in theory, is probably the haunted house, but actually you can do the most psychological damage if you're being interrogated.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't give them anything useful.
Yeah.
I would also bet quite a lot of money that you guys would not be able to guess what my main gripe with this challenge is, though.
This is the laser game?
No, even better than that.
That Sam wasn't an interrogator?
No, I think Sam as interrogatee was more fun anyway, but the graphics for the Haunted House challenge were bullshit. It made it impossible to play along with.
Oh, because we didn't see the map or the layout?
Well, not even that we didn't see the map or the layout. We didn't see the math of how many buttons each person had pressed. It just kept flashing up to show a group total. I don't care about group total. I want to see the individual totals because you don't get any usable information out of that as a viewer.
No.
I don't give a shit that as a team they're on €250. I give a shit that Nora managed to press 4 buttons and didn't cost them anything. That's what I want to see because you can't do follow the money on it.
I like that they used this as the laser game this season. At least they came up with a new concept for it.
Yeah, did you recognize that challenge?
Like as in like the Belgian challenge, or
It's a variation on a Belgium Argentina challenge.
Yeah.
With the buzzwire. So the non-buzzwire portion of that, if you remember, it was 2 people with a steady hand, and then everyone else had to go into an abandoned hacienda where there were blindfolded bad guys shooting paintball guns at them, and they had to flick 5 switches.
Right. I do. I remember the wire part of it, but I forgot that was what triggered the wire in it.
It's actually one of my favorite Belkia challenges, which is why I recognized it straight away, because I love it. I love how it's a perfect example of Belkia challenges intertwining with each other, because obviously if they hit the buzz wire, the alarms went off and all that sort of stuff. But it's really tense, it's sabotageable, it's a fun challenge to watch, and you can follow along with it. It's just an almost perfect Belkia challenge. But I like that they adapted it here for the Haunted House.
I thought it was interesting that this challenge manages to like be the laser game challenge and sort of annoy the people who don't get to do the laser game, but it also gets to be a meet them all challenge and annoy the people who don't get to do the meet them all challenge.
Yeah, nobody's happy at the end of this challenge.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is sabotageable a real word?
Yeah, I would say so. I could text my English graduate brother if you want, but I'm pretty sure sabotageable is a valid word.
Ask AI.
Sabotageable. Susceptible to sabotage.
Sabotageable. I think it's the first time I've ever heard that word spoken.
Don't come to me with English language questions, bitch.
Whoa. That
escalated.
You, Ruse?
So Rick walks in and makes a joke about them interrogating him too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to ask him if he has kids, and he's going to say, no, but I have people that call me daddy. And then the second question they ask Rick is, who's fucking Van der Westerlaken?
And Rick replies, I'll never tell. So Rick confirms that they earned €250 in the haunted house, but it could have been so much more, but he won't tell them how. And they return to the hotel and immediately ask the haunted house team what happened. Nora says she was hit 0 times, Bridget twice, and Stein 2 or 3 times. Ray and Sophie downplay what they saw in the lie detector, so no one got anything of value, including them, because lie detectors are bullshit. And then we head to Kampong Kliang on day 8, which is on Tonle Sap, as we said a few weeks ago, one of the floating villages that Amazing Grace loves to visit whenever they go to Cambodia.
They didn't even go to the basketball court.
Not this time, maybe they will next time. They're in Siem Reap for a while, remember. And Ray gets the traditional, oh, look at how happy the poor people are speech.
Yeah.
Over like 50 confessionals.
I mean, surely they could have given that confession to somebody who we don't hear from in this episode, like Rose or Nora or Bridget.
Or literally anyone else. Anyone who's going to be relevant to the season. Because, spoilers for the end of this episode, he gone.
Maybe nobody else cared to comment on Cambodian children.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think I've said before, I don't love it when they do the whole poverty porn speech. This one was alright, I suppose, but it does occasionally cross the line a little for me.
Yeah. It's like when they do challenges sort of themed about how like hospitable wherever they are is. Like they did one in Oman. They kind of got away with it in Oman a little bit. Because, you know, I think like Oman, where they were, kind of felt like like a very rich part of the city, and I think they kind of got away with it because it was a rich part of the city. Here, it kind of feels like, oh, these people are so hospitable, and then the subtext is, and we're assholes.
Yeah, Ray said, man, these people in this village are so happy even though they don't see many tourists, and they are so happy even though they don't have any abandoned airports.
I will say, to kind of fast forward to the end of the episode, just like with Georgia, and we did make a few comparisons to Georgia a couple of weeks ago, they have dodged some bullets with this boot order.
Yeah.
It is pretty much the best the boot order could be at this point in terms of entertainment value.
Yeah.
Like, I think we probably could have got a little bit more out of tone, but not a huge amount.
Yeah, I mean, tone was the biggest loss of the three, but in terms of losing Gabriel and Ray back-to-back weeks, I'm not devastated.
No.
My favorite is Rick's speech going into this challenge saying, the people here live from fishing, growing rice. So who wants chocolate ice cream?
So who wants to do some shaved ice?
My favorite was like, you'll be doing this in 2 teams, and then he pauses, and then they don't go and make the teams. So it's like, make 2 teams, and then they pause, and he doesn't do anything, and it's like, now.
No, I thought Roos was going to say, why don't you make 2 teams?
Yeah, you pick it, Rick. What do you do?
Then Rick has to say, the interrogation challenge is over, Roos. Move on, please.
So Rick does tell them the locals are very hospitable and they'll be handing out shaved ice to the locals to say thank you for their hospitality. The more colourful shaved ice that they hand out, the more money they can win. They'll be doing it in 2 groups, and Ray says he only wanted 2 things, him, Sophie and Sam not to be together, and Bridget and Stein to be separated too.
I like how Ray had all this criteria for how to separate the teams, but it doesn't matter at all because he gone.
Yeah, he's utterly irrelevant to this episode and to the season in the end.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you don't want to be a team with Sam and Sophie, keep Bridget and Stein apart, but guess what? It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
You lose.
This season, when they lock him in a crate, it's just for fun.
So the teams are Bridget, Nora, Sam and Micah, and Stein, Ray, Sophie and Rose. They have to nominate 2 captains as well, which is Sam and Sophie.
Sam got promoted.
Whether Sam wins this season or not, he is the highlight of this season.
Yes.
Because he is just having a blast no matter what he's doing. He's always smiling. He has obviously had a lot of briefing from Peter Yan about how to mess with people as much as is physically possible. And he's just enjoying life.
Well, he's Peter Yan's Dick's son. How could you not enjoy life?
Well, yeah.
Do you think the ice was was courtesy of Ray's shirt?
I did think that maybe Ray wanted to not be a captain so that he could just spend more time with his favourite thing in the world, which is ice. Because he mentions it in his goodbye speech. He's like, oh, that was my favourite thing as well, just, shoving ice up my arsehole.
I like how Ray and Gabriel both did that challenge, and Rick asked them both, what's your favorite thing you got to do? Oh yeah, melt ice in my shirt.
No, Ray specifically said, melt ice in my arsehole. Because it was so close to being Bindles' intro this week.
But I wonder if Ray saw just when he first saw that ice shaving machine, if he thought, man, I think my shirt works better than this machine.
So, team captains Sam and Sophie will be playing Snakes and Ladders, and whoever gets to the finish line first wins. Along the way, if they landed a colourful bottle of syrup, they will get a trivia question to unlock that colour for their team. The first team captain to make it to the end banks their team's money, and if it's the higher of the 2, they will also earn a yoker.
It was nice of Sam to humour Rick when he had to explain how snakes worked in that game. And I'm like, either Sam is trolling him during the explanation, or it's not a thing in the Netherlands. And then I remembered that the Genius Netherlands did it, so it has to be the first one, which is even funnier.
And I also love how it seems that the trivia questions were Trivial Pursuit ones themed around those colours.
Oh.
It seemed like all the green ones were geography ones, all the orange ones were history of some description, I think.
Huh. I genuinely didn't notice that.
Yeah, the trivia was definitely colour-coded.
Yeah. Like, I got that it was color-coded. I just thought, like, it was a batch of, like, themed questions about, ice and Cambodia and all of that sort of stuff.
No, because you had stuff like which Belgian city is the capital of diamonds.
I see what you're doing there, Belgian showrunner.
Yeah. Before anyone writes in, I know that geography is blue in Trivial Pursuit, but they were all categorized by color.
Huh.
I'm surprised at this point that one of the questions wasn't which country is better, Belgium or the Netherlands? Because it
Wrong.
feels like it's almost
Belgium.
yeah.
Yeah, suck a dick, Luxembourg.
Did anyone else pick up on that Sophie's questions were much, much, much easier than Sam's questions?
They were so much easier.
Like this is the back and forth was ridiculous. Rick asks Sam, "Yeah, which city is which Belgian city is the city of diamonds or the capital of diamonds, for diamonds?" And then Sam says Antwerp. It's like, okay, that's a tougher one. I wouldn't have known that off the top of my head. And then he asks Sophie, "What is Napoleon's last name?" And then Sophie says Dynamite. And then he has to say, no, Bonaparte, Sophie. And then it goes back to Sam. And what year did the big flood happen? And it's like something that happened in the 1950s, and he was off by 3 years.
Sophie gets how many colors are in a rainbow.
Yeah, Roy bit. And Sophie gets asked, which country was Cambodia a colony?
Again, I mean, most of these personally were reasonably easy. I didn't know the big flood one, obviously, but Antwerp is famous for its diamond district. You've probably not actually seen
but compared to how many colors are in a rainbow,
Yeah.
and what is Napoleon's last name?
Yeah, compared to how many colors are in a rainbow, it's obviously way harder. But Antwerp is actually famous for diamonds.
Yeah.
There's a big diamond district, and in fact, as you walk from Antwerp Central, you see a lot of diamond shops.
And Sam also got, what is the oldest tennis tournament in the world?
Yeah, that's Wimbledon. That's easy.
Yeah, but it's not as easy as how many colors are in a rainbow. Because if you don't follow sports and you're out and especially tennis, you may not even know Wimbledon.
I mean, there's only 4 Grand Slams. It's not going
Yeah.
to be the Australian Open. It's not going to be the US Open. And it's the sort of sport that, frankly, wanky British people like. Like, it's not that hard to guess.
Tennis, famously a British sport. Even if you don't know, you're probably going to guess Wimbledon as your first choice, not Roland Garros, which isn't even the tournament, can I point out? That's the stadium.
Yeah.
But my friends, most of my friends don't even watch sports at all. Like
most of your friends are idiots.
I mean, look at us.
I was setting you up for that slightly, but yeah, present company included.
Yeah. I did like that when Sam got the flood question wrong. He's like, "Of course, I should have known that as a journalist. I think I'm going to hear about that at home." I'm like, "Yes, even this show is making Peter Yarn Dick moment jokes now."
Yeah, I will say, very impressive for Sam to reel off the top of his head 3 of Cambodia's neighbours.
Yeah,
I know that's not the hardest question in the world, but he did not take a breath.
Sophie didn't even have to name the colors in the rainbow. It's just how many are in a rainbow.
Yeah. The other one as well that does need discussing is which country was Cambodia a former colony of. Even if you don't know that question, you probably guess France in that area of the world, given that Vietnam was famously a French colony.
And that during that area was French Indochina too.
Yeah, exactly. It's only in that area of the world either going to be the Netherlands or France. And if you're Dutch, you probably know it's not the Netherlands.
Yeah. And also, you've just been to Phnom Penh, which is basically all French buildings.
Yes.
If it's anything like Vietnam, French will probably be the second language in Cambodia. I don't know for certain, but I'm presuming it probably is. They've probably seen a fair bit of French at this point in a week.
The French influence is very obvious if you go to Cambodia. But it just reminded me of that episode of Family Guy where they play Trivial Pursuit and Lois secretly swaps the questions for Peter to like preschool questions, and everyone else has to answer proper level Trivial Pursuit questions. That's what it felt like here. I was waiting for what color is a fire truck and say the word what for Sophie.
Sophie did get the question about cryophobia being the fear of ice, which is nice because otherwise I think, if it went to some of the other people here, they would have said it was the fear of Jon Cryer.
Fear of Jon. I just got that.
Jesus, Saunders. Yeah, I mean, I think we've pretty much recapped this challenge, to be honest. Yeah. Just taking the piss out of the question.
This is the haunted house just showing clips of 2.5 Men. Oh god! Oh god! I lost 500 euros. Damn you, Jon Cryer.
If you don't laugh at 2.5 Men, then you get shot by the blind bad guys.
Yeah. Turns out that wasn't Michael Jackson, it was Charlie Sheen.
It's Charlie Sheen's career. Winning.
What strategy would you have taken in this challenge?
I think it depends who you are. And I know that's
Yeah.
a cop-out answer, but if you're Sam and Sophie, you realise that the game ends when you stop playing, so you take your time.
Yeah.
I think if you're a mole on the other side, which is most likely where the mole was, you've got to prioritise doing the €5 cups as much as you
Yeah.
can. You've
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
accidentally miss the balloons. You certainly
Yeah.
don't do what Ray did and passive-aggressively help the other team to earn money.
I would assume ideal mole strategy there would be to, if you're the one that's making or doing the shaped ice, to go through the one color you start out with as fast as possible so that you run out quickly. So by the time you do get a new color, you're down to only that color to use anyway. Or you make it
Yeah.
like you're working, and also make it like you're working really hard by constantly handing out just the €5 cups as well. So it's like, oh, look
Yeah.
how fast I made these 10 cups. Well, that was equivalent to one 4-color cup.
Yeah, like I know, I can't remember whether it was in the Discord or somewhere else, but I saw someone ask, why don't you just make a whole bunch of cups ready to go and then wait until you've got more flavors? And I'm like, the ice will melt.
Yeah.
Like it's shaved at that point. It's very small things. It'll take seconds to melt. Like you can't really do that.
Yeah, you don't want shaved water.
No.
And I was curious too, with it being one of those simultaneous challenges where one group directly affects the other, if there was like a set timer with how long it was between when a trivia question is asked and with the dice rolling, if there were rules enforced with that. Like each dice roll automatically counts as, I don't know, 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And if there was a certain timer to the questions being asked, because you could really think through, like, what was Napoleon's last name? And just go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me think about this.
The elephant in the room that we're ignoring, of course, is the rant that I know Fuzzy's going to put on the bingo board, which is there was no maximum to this challenge, and there was so much build-up of, oh, which team's going to win? How much money are we going to put in the pot? I hope it's the higher one. And it ends up being €615 total. What is the point?
Yeah.
I know we're not going to harp on too much about the challenges this season because they're significantly better than previous ones. But if you're going to do a twist like that where only one team's winnings actually go into the pot, it needs to be a decent amount of money that they can win and that the teams are putting into the pot because it's bullshit.
Like a significant margin of difference too. Say one team, let's say the losing team earned, I don't know, €3,000 and the winning team earned only €1,000. Then it creates that extra. Who that was was one of the team captains like being updated that they were not doing so well and tried really hard to win Snakes and Ladders?
The price of a pass frog in here ends up being €55.
Yeah.
Which is horseshit. But I'm surprised, or given how low amounts that they could have earned with this challenge, I'm surprised they could have just changed it to all of the money is earned, and if you were the winning team captain, then you get the Joker as well. They could have just made that minor change and just let them have the €600 instead of 330.
Yeah, it feels spectacularly cheap, this to me.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the captains had the power to stall the challenge a little bit, like by not taking the full value of their roles. Like, I think at one point towards the end, we see Sam pretty much volunteering to go down a snake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is the Joker enough of an incentive to want to, like, not just stop at every single question if you can do that? Like, especially because a longer game equals more money, as Sophie pointed out. Like, it kind of didn't make sense that they were so eager to get to the end for one Joker.
I think they were unlucky that both of the captains were very competitive people and wanted to win.
Yeah.
Like, if you had more passive people who didn't really give a shit, I think you would have earned a lot more money in this challenge. But all this build up, and this challenge is a long time in the episode. It's probably about 15, 20 minutes of the episode. Is that an hour and 7, I think, this episode in total?
Yeah.
It's a long time in an episode. It's got an unlimited prize pot, essentially. I mean, in reality, obviously, it wouldn't have. But it's a long build up for a maximum of €330 here.
Hmm.
I like how we're far enough into the Vidum timeline that now we've had Texas Hold'em Poker as a challenge and Snakes and Ladders as a challenge.
And Go Fish, don't forget that one.
We've had Go Fish, we've had Connect 4, we've had Jenga a couple of times. There's been a few sort of board gamey sort of things.
And variations of Old Maid, I think, too.
Her name is Arth. I am looking forward to intense final exemption Hungry Hungry Hippos at the end of this season.
That's next season when they're in Botswana.
Yeah, I was going to say they should have done that in South Africa, really, shouldn't they?
Yeah, it's real hippos.
Instead of taking photos of butts.
Yeah, that's hooray again. So yeah, Sophie wins the Yoker. Her team get €330. Wow, everyone's time was well worth it there. It is now time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows least goes home except for the mole who can never go home. Sophie's got a Yoker and Sam still has Micah's one. And Sophie says that in this season, a test is not a test. Her and Sam find out that the test computers are not in the house that they're in, but instead they have to look at the party scene around them and adjust 4 things to make the scene right. The people will unfreeze in 3 minutes, and if they're correct, they earn €250 for the pot. And their test time begins at the start of the still life assignment, so if they finish early, they can start the test early.
I know we made the joke a couple of weeks ago about the restaurant challenge basically being a bunch of 2-minute mental games from the Crystal Maze.
Yeah.
But this is literally a 3-minute mental game from the Crystal Maze.
Absolutely. And not even a particularly difficult one either.
No. Like, the fact that we had 2 teams lose this was shocking. I feel like they had the idea to do something with these stilt houses and then came up with this and then realised it wasn't enough of a challenge. So they realised they had to basically stick the test on at the end just to, like, justify it.
I've just... Sorry to interrupt. I've just realised what the pun they were going for here is.
Which
it's
is?
stilt life, isn't it?
Oh, God.
I've just realised as you were talking and called it still life assignment.
Oh, for
Fuck's sake, that was the pun. Jesus Christ, show.
Yeah, like it feels like they had a challenge, realized it wasn't enough, and then stuck the test on at the end just to like justify it.
Yeah.
But one of the better things of Oman was they really didn't mess with the test that much. Like, as much as they, experimented with a few things, the one thing they really did well was basically every test was just a test.
Yeah, there was maybe one exception I can think of, but
yeah,
with the exception of them shifting where the test is in some of the episodes, they didn't really mess with the test.
Yeah, but like Oman sort of like, every test was just a test, and now this is the 3rd test in 4 episodes that's been messed up. Like, we had the 1 question test in episode 1, we had the test with questions related to things that are happening right now last week, and now this. Like, I kind of wish they'd just have some tests be tests.
And the fact that they're getting Sophie to lampshade, it means it's probably not the last one.
I see what you did there.
Kind of unintentional pun, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
So Ray had such an exciting strategy for this challenge.
Would do nothing.
You know what? This is a television show, so everyone wants lots of entertainment. This is one of the challenges. We know it's going to be broadcasted, so guess what? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to stand here and do nothing for 3 minutes.
I'm going to stand here and do fuck all.
It does beat Sam's strategy of not even waiting for Sophie to finish talking before he puts the party hat on the person.
Sam doing that isn't even the best one. Nora doing that is the best one because she accidentally pings someone with the elastic.
I think the funniest bit is like the poor person it happens to just does not react.
No, I'm very impressed that neither of them reacted because to just hold your arms out for 3 minutes, it's actually quite hard. It's much harder than you'd anticipate it being. It takes a lot of quite impressive discipline for you to hold that pose.
I like how the two Cambodians they used for this challenge did more than Ray did.
Yeah.
Well, one of them ends up basically doing the entire challenge on her own when the group doesn't get it.
I wish that for the two pairs that failed, that Rick would have just jumped in and said, "Hey, we didn't get you your birthday cake, but here's some shaved ice.
I hope you like orange.
It's the only color Sam got. Or blue, I guess. It's all blue."
I just blew myself.
Thank you, Matt Barr.
What should have happened is locals should have just come in with the buckets of balloons and just pelted them.
I wonder what the camera operators were thinking when just Ray just stands there and does nothing, and the camera operator just says, "Man, this is I'm really regretting taking this job. Filming Vidum was going to be entertaining," they said.
I was kind of disappointed that the answers to the puzzle were things like go and get the cake, put the hat that's on the table on the person that's sitting next to the hat, like that sort of thing. Like it would have been much funny if one of the things was okay, go outside, get a bunch of people, and just bring them back in here in a conga line.
I mean, as a mole, the most fun sabotage here would have been put the cake in front of the woman who's blowing out the candles and then put her face into that cake. Really test the limits of how they're not going to react.
This is the Fifth Element.
I'm not talking about having lit the candles first or putting the candles on it beforehand. Just, really test their commitment to not reacting to anything.
I wonder if each contestant has their own production handler or assistant assigned each contestant, because whoever was assigned to Ray spent one episode in an abandoned airport, and now this one of him just standing there and doing nothing.
It's the easiest job, I suppose.
It's much easier than listening to Sam singing Happy Birthday in Dutch.
Very true. So, any team who solve the puzzle find out that their laptops are actually inside the present, and eventually any team who doesn't solve it finds that out as well. And it is Nora and Rose and Micah and Bridget who do solve the puzzle, for a total of €500 of 1,000 for the challenge, 1,080 of 4,250 of the episode, and 5,205 of 22,600 for the season so far. And just as an editor's note, I've set the maximum for the shaved ice challenge at about $1,000.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of doable if everyone
Yeah.
cooperated. I don't think you could have got more than 1,000 because otherwise it would have been really boring television.
It's interesting to note that that Rick goes on about how this is a really poor community and it's somebody's birthday, and the present is 2 tablets that are for 2 Dutch people. It's their own birthday, not even the present isn't even for them. And then it's just, oh, actually, your present is shaved ice. Here you go. You don't get the tablet.
So Rose spreads as much as possible over Ray, Nora, and Micah. Nora said she hoped to be a bit wiser about what she didn't do or hear, but everyone has done or said something suspicious, and she says she's spreading over 4 people. That's final 8.
Look, it's better than what Bridget did.
Very true. Stein says that Ray didn't help, which was suspicious. Micah says she's still not asking for her yoker back, as there may be a situation where that yoker comes to her eventually anyway, and she's not gonna beg. Sophie plays a yoker and is distracted by how quick Sam is at going through the test. Sam spreads between Sophie and Bridget, but mainly Sophie, and as we said, speeds through the test. Stein hopes for 2 things. He hopes he doesn't do the worst, and if he does do the worst, he hopes it's not because of time. The execution then just happens in the middle of the street.
Yeah, I also noticed this unusual location.
Yeah.
It's not a landmark. It's just, I don't feel like walking anymore. Let's just do it here.
Middle of the road.
I mean, to be fair, so was Ray.
Yeah, true.
I was waiting for somebody to just yell car, and everyone has to move the chairs and the laptop to let the car go by, and then resume the execution.
And then, of course, Rose decides to steal Sam's seat just to troll him a little bit. Sam, Sophie, and Stein all get green screens before Ray is the one who gets the red.
Thank fuck for that. I mean, everyone is shocked, but come on, the dude was clearly not paying attention to anything of any relevance.
Yeah, and the dude was clearly not the mole. Michelle,
Yeah.
Logan last week. I may or may not have looked at the suspicions from last week as soon as I watched the execution, saw that you put Ray as number 1 last week, and went, what the fuck's on? There's 2 weeks on the trot.
Yeah, and how about after the first task of this episode, I thought, yeah, Ray has really fallen down my list.
I mean, I literally have no notes about what he said apart from the fact that he enjoyed shoving ice up his arsehole.
Yeah. I think the best part of this exit interview is Rick tries to build up a little bit more of the foreshadowing for that thing Ray saw at the airport, and Ray's sort of very non-committal about how he gave part of the information to Sam.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a waste of a twist.
No payoff, yeah, no payoff, and it's just like, oh yeah, I gave Sam some information about it. So yeah, that whole give a contestant a preview of what will happen in episode 7 does not have a payoff to it, especially if Sam goes home before episode 7.
He better not be your number 1 suspect this week, son, as I will kill you. After the luck you've had so far this season, you're not allowed to do first suspicions anymore.
And Ray was, I noticed Ray was wearing a shirt with the American flag and an eagle on it.
He was.
What up with that, Ray?
Especially in Cambodia, of all places.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, it's
not a good look.
No.
So yeah, he gone. I have nothing more to say about him. I don't even think he's going to get a eulogy here, I'll be honest.
No, not a tear was shed.
Next time, they finally go to Angkor Wat. They're memorizing movements, everyone makes their own masterpiece, and there is a very familiar voice of one of them. In the pool with Ray going home, Michelle is the second team member, leaving her with just Bridget and Sam. Logan still has Nora and Stein, and I have my full team of Micah, Sophie, and Rose. On First Suspicions, it is a good week if you're Ollie, Walter, Natalie, or TV's Michael Harmstone, as Ray was their bottom suspect, and an even better one if you are Fuzzy or our very own Bindles, who are currently leading First Suspicions with a score of 30, where the minimum is 28. Everyone gets a reprieve this week as no one put Ray first, so there is a reprieve on the shaming there, but less of a reprieve for Christina and our very own Michelle Pierce-Denovan, who have a score of 41 and are dragging their heels at the moment. This week's Dutch suspects are Rose on 23%, which is up 2 on last week, Sophie on 20%, up 6, Sam on 13%, up 3, Micah, Nora, and Stein all on 11%, plus 2, and Bridget on 11, minus 1.
The fuck did Sophie do this week to go up 6%?
I've no idea. I mean, bear in mind, Ray was number 2 suspect last week on, I think it was at 18%.
Mm.
But yeah, Sophie's on 20% at the moment, or was as of yesterday evening.
I mean, I don't want to call the Dutch audience dumb, but if they're any dumber, they'll probably be suspecting Michael, John, Olcay, and Linda.
Very true. Final 2 questions, as always. Who do we suspect and who's going home next week?
So my suspect list: Bridget, Sophie, Stein, Micah, then Ray. Then it was Ray, who is now gone. He gone. Nora, Sam, Roos, and I think it's going to be Nora's time, sadly, because her edit has not been prominent.
No.
So I think Micah, Sam, Rose, Sophie, Bridget, Stein, and Nora. I don't know whether it's going to be Nora or Bridget, but I feel like it's going to be one of them. But either way, the fact that we're, praising this boot order has been pretty damn good, and somehow one of those two is going to end up in final 6 is shocking.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Bridget next week.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, because I put her number 1?
Well, I was thinking this even before you put her number 1, but I'm leaning towards Bridget going next week because I feel like Nora has had more stuff, and it's not necessarily Nora's fault that she's been a bit under-edited so far.
Yeah.
In that, for example, the Haunted House challenge, where she did have a moment to shine, she was just so blandly competent that they couldn't really show that much of her.
Yeah.
I will also say, if Nora goes next week, I shoot up the rankings on First Suspicions, I think, because her and Ray were my bottom 2. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think I might go first next week if Nora goes. So I win either way.
That's a shame.
I think there is an outside chance of maybe Sophie going soon. I'll put that out there now. I think certainly out of my team, Sophie's most likely to go first at the moment. My suspect list to end the episode is Micah, Rose, Sophie, Sam, Bridget, Stein, Nora. And I will also say we're at the point in the season where I'm a bit bored of putting 3 suspects on there, so we're going down to 2 this week. I was umming and ahhing about whether it'd be this week or next week that I make the official call that it goes down to 2, but yeah, we're going down to 2 this week. Anything else you guys want to say?
No, I'm good.
Nope.
Good. So, thank you for listening to our Vietnam War 2025 recap. We'll be back next week to continue the hunt for the new small in Cambodia. Don't forget you can contact us on pretty much every social media platform that isn't TikTok, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us and contact at rtvwarriors.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/rtvwarriors. Thank you as always to Marika for the subtitles, and we'll see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next episode.
Cheers!